$500? My husband spends more on lunch, Judge, a joke?
Keep laughing, Miss Sinclair. Federal charges outside are about to erase smiles.
The courtroom camera captured the exact moment a 29-year-old trophy wife's entire world collapsed. And what makes this absolutely insane is that she was literally laughing when it started. Amber Sinclair sat in Judge Judy's courtroom wearing an $8,000 Valentino dress, her perfectly manicured hand covering her mouth as she giggled at the $500 fine the judge had just announced. "Are you serious?" she said through her laughter, her voice dripping with that particular brand of entitlement that only comes from never facing real consequences. $500? My husband spends more than that on lunch. What Amber didn't know, what she couldn't possibly have imagined as she sat there smirking in her designer clothes and $7,500 Cartier bracelet, was that two FBI agents were standing outside that courtroom door at that exact moment, waiting with federal arrest warrants that would send her to prison for 8 years. And the reason they were there, the reason this socialite influencer with 380,000 Instagram followers was about to be let out in handcuffs on national television, wasn't just about the catering bill she refused to pay. It was about something so much bigger, so much more calculated and criminal, that when Judge Judy opened her second folder and revealed what she'd discovered, even the bailiff's expression hardened with disgust. Before we show you the exact moment Amber realized those FBI agents were there for her, before we reveal the one sentence she said that transformed a simple civil case into a federal criminal investigation, you need to understand something critical. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a difficult client having legitimate complaints. What Judge Judy uncovered was a 4-year criminal enterprise that had stolen $247,000 from 9 different victims, all of them small business owners, all of them women, all of them deliberately targeted because Amber Sinclair had discovered that threatening lawsuits was more profitable than actually working. And the woman sitting across from her in that courtroom, 38-year-old Maya Rodriguez, wasn't just another vendor dispute. Maya was 60 days away from losing everything she'd built over 10 years, 60 days from her 3 children becoming homeless, 60 days from complete financial destruction. All because Amber had decided that paying for services was optional when you're beautiful and your husband is worth $40 million. The case file read simple enough. Maya's Catering versus Amber Sinclair. $14,000 for an event that happened, food that was served, guests who ate and praised everything, and a contract that was crystal clear. But what Judge Judy had spent 3 days investigating, what she'd compiled in that second folder sitting on her bench, would expose a pattern so deliberate and predatory that it crossed from civil court into federal criminal territory. Amber had done this before. Not once. Not twice. 9 times over 4 years, and she'd gotten away with it every single time because each victim thought they were isolated, thought they were alone, thought that fighting back against someone with unlimited legal resources was impossible. Maya Rodriguez had worked 80 hours a week for a decade to build her catering business. She'd saved for 8 years just to afford the commercial kitchen space. She'd lost her husband to cancer 5 years ago and had been the sole provider for 3 kids ever since. When Amber hired her to cater a spring gala for 150 guests at $28,000, Maya had gone into debt for $18,000 in upfront costs. Premium Maine lobster. Imported Wagyu beef. Specialty rentals. Additional staff. She'd done everything perfectly. The event was flawless. Amber had posted 47 photos on Instagram that night with captions like, "Best party ever," and "Living my best life," with the beautiful food displays prominently featured. Guests had left glowing reviews specifically praising the catering. Everything was documented, photographed, perfect. Then came the betrayal. 2 weeks of ignored calls and emails. Then finally Amber's response, casual and cruel. "The food was mediocre. I'm not paying. Sue me if you want. My husband's lawyers will destroy you." And Maya, already $18,000 in debt from the event, watching her business credit score plummet, unable to pay her suppliers or make rent, had one last desperate option. Judge Judy's court. But here's what nobody in that courtroom knew yet, what makes this story absolutely explosive. Judge Judy hadn't just reviewed Maya's case. She'd contacted the California Small Business Association. She'd spoken with the Consumer Protection Bureau. She'd subpoenaed Amber's text messages and bank records. And what she'd found was so damning, so clearly criminal, that she'd made a phone call that very morning to the FBI. "Now I need you to do something for me right now before we go any further into this incredible story of justice. Hit that subscribe button because what happens when Amber stops laughing and realizes what Judge Judy has uncovered will restore your faith that consequences are real even for people who think their beauty and money make them untouchable. Comment below where you're watching from and whether you've ever encountered someone who thought the rules didn't apply to them. Because the moment when those handcuffs click onto Amber's wrists while she's still wearing that $8,000 dress is the most satisfying piece of courtroom justice you will see all year, and you absolutely cannot miss what she says that seals her fate forever. Amber Sinclair hadn't always been a criminal, but she'd always been calculating. 5 years ago she was working as a bottle service waitress in a Las Vegas nightclub, wearing tight dresses and high heels, smiling at wealthy men who tipped in hundreds, playing a role she'd perfected since she was 21. That's where she met Richard Sinclair at a tech convention after-party. He was 54 years old, recently divorced, worth $40 million from selling his software company, and desperately lonely in that way successful men often are when they hit middle age. Amber was 24, blonde, beautiful in that very specific Instagram way with perfect makeup and strategic cosmetic enhancements, and she knew exactly what she was doing. 3 months later they were engaged. 6 months after that, married in a $300,000 wedding in Malibu. She'd signed a prenup, but Amber had discovered something interesting about her new life. Richard traveled constantly 20-plus days every month for board meetings and investment opportunities. He'd given her unlimited credit cards and complete freedom. And most importantly, he never questioned her about money because to him, the amounts she spent were insignificant compared to his net worth. That's when Amber discovered her true talent wasn't modeling or social media influence. It was identifying vulnerable targets and extracting money through systematic intimidation. Her first victim was Elena Martinez, a 34-year-old personal trainer who came to the mansion 3 times a week for private sessions. After 2 months, Amber claimed Elena had injured her back during a workout. She demanded $25,000 or she'd sue and destroy Elena's small training studio with negative reviews and legal fees. Elena was a single mother who couldn't afford a prolonged court battle against someone with unlimited resources. She settled for $12,000 just to make it stop. Amber had bragged to her friends about it over champagne. "I just made $12,000 from my trainer," she'd texted, adding a laughing emoji. That's when she realized she'd found something more profitable than any legitimate work. She could use her husband's wealth as a weapon, threaten people who couldn't fight back, and extract settlements that were cheaper than legal defense. All she needed was targets who were vulnerable enough to pay. Her second victim was Patricia Chin, an interior designer hired to redecorate the entire mansion for $150,000. Patricia worked for 4 months, purchased all materials, managed contractors, created something beautiful. When it was finished, Amber claimed she hated everything and refused to pay the final $85,000 installment. She threatened to sue for emotional distress from living in an ugly space. Patricia, who ran a small 2-person design firm, spent $30,000 in legal fees before settling for $40,000 just to stop the financial hemorrhaging. Her business nearly went bankrupt from the loss. Then came Jessica Williams, an event planner hired to coordinate Amber's influencer birthday party. The $60,000 event went perfectly. Amber got thousands of Instagram likes from the photos. Then she claimed Jessica had embarrassed her with some minor detail and refused to pay the $15,000 fee. Jessica was 8 months pregnant and settled for $7,000 to avoid the stress. The pattern was always identical. Hire women-owned small businesses. Let them complete the work and incur all expenses. Praise everything publicly for social media image. Then create some vague complaint and refuse payment. When they protested, threaten expensive litigation. Watch them crumble under the financial pressure. Extract a settlement. Move on to the next victim. Over 4 years, Amber had done this 9 times. Personal trainers, interior designers, event planners, caterers, photographers, personal shoppers. The total she'd stolen was $247,000, and she'd gotten away with it because each victim thought they were alone. Nobody connected the dots. Nobody realized this beautiful socialite with the perfect Instagram feed was actually running a criminal enterprise from her Newport Beach mansion. She kept detailed files on every business in her area, noting their financial situations, their vulnerabilities, their likelihood of fighting back. She specifically targeted immigrants and single mothers because she knew they'd be most afraid of the legal system. She was a predator in designer clothes, and she'd been hunting successfully for years without anyone stopping her. She even had a lawyer, Marcus Henderson, who knew exactly what she was doing. He'd received $45,000 in fees from Amber over the years for writing threatening letters to her victims. He was complicit, profiting from her fraud, helping her refine the system. But Amber had finally made a fatal mistake. She'd gotten too confident, too arrogant, too certain that her beauty and her husband's money made her untouchable. When she targeted Maya Rodriguez and refused to pay $14,000 for catering that was flawless, when she sent that email saying, "Sue me, my husband's lawyers will destroy you," she didn't realize Maya would be different. Maya was desperate enough to fight back. And more importantly, Maya's case would land on Judge Judy's desk at exactly the moment when the judge had decided she'd had enough of entitled fraudsters destroying hardworking people's lives. What Amber couldn't have known was that Judge Judy doesn't just review case files. She investigates. And when something smells wrong, she digs until she finds the truth. The moment Amber walked into Judge Judy's courtroom, everyone could see she thought this was beneath her. She moved like she was walking a runway at Fashion Week, her $8,000 Valentino dress swishing with each step, her $12,000 Cartier necklace catching the courtroom lights. She sat down with an exaggerated sigh, immediately pulled out her phone, and started scrolling through Instagram like she was waiting at a nail salon instead of standing before a judge. Her lawyer, Marcus Henderson, leaned over and whispered something that made her giggle. She didn't even glance at Maya Rodriguez sitting across from her. To Amber, Maya simply didn't exist as a real person worth acknowledging. Maya entered quietly, wearing a simple dress from Target that she'd owned for 3 years, carrying a heavy folder of documentation that represented months of meticulous record-keeping. Her hands trembled slightly as she set everything down. The dark circles under her eyes told the story of someone who'd been working 16-hour days just to survive, someone who was 60 days from total financial collapse. Someone for whom this $14,000 meant the difference between keeping her children housed or losing everything. Judge Judy looked up from the case file, and anyone who'd watched her show for years would recognize that expression. Her eyes had that particular sharpness that meant she'd already spotted something wrong, already sensed that this case was bigger than it appeared on paper. She glanced at a second folder on her bench, thicker than the first, then looked directly at Amber, who was still absorbed in her phone screen. "Miss Sinclair," Judge Judy said, her voice cutting through the courtroom like a blade. "Put the phone away. You're not at brunch." Amber glanced up, smiled with mock politeness, and slipped the phone into her designer handbag. "Of course, Your Honor," she said in a tone that suggested she was doing Judge Judy a favor by paying attention. The preliminary testimony started simply enough. Judge Judy asked Maya to explain her claim, and Maya spoke carefully, her voice shaking at first but growing steadier as she detailed the contract, the work, the expenses. She showed the Instagram posts where Amber had praised the event with captions like, "Best party ever," and "Amazing food." She showed guest reviews specifically complimenting the catering. She showed text messages from Amber confirming everything was perfect. She showed receipts proving $18,000 in expenses she'd paid up front. When Maya explained she had 3 children and was facing bankruptcy without this payment, her voice cracked with genuine emotion. Judge Judy turned to Amber. "Miss Sinclair, did you hire Mrs. Rodriguez to cater your event for $28,000? Amber waved her hand dismissively. "Yes, technically, but the quality was really not up to my standards." Judge Judy's eyebrow rose. "Your standards?" "The same standards that led you to post 47 photos praising the event." Amber shifted in her seat, her first sign of discomfort. "Well, I have to maintain my brand image on social media. I can't post negative things publicly. It would look bad." Judge Judy leaned forward. "So you lied to your followers to make yourself look good, but now you're claiming the food was actually terrible?" Amber's face flushed. "That's not what I meant. I just meant that privately, between us, the quality wasn't worth $14,000. The excuses started flowing. The lobster was overcooked, though photos showed perfect presentation. The beef was tough, though guest reviews said it melted in their mouth. Guests complained, though Maya had thank you messages from 12 attendees. For every claim Amber made, Judge Judy produced counter-evidence from Maya's meticulous documentation. Now listen carefully because this is important. Before I show you what happens when Amber makes her fatal mistake, I need you to smash that like button right now if you believe hardworking mothers like Maya deserve justice against entitled fraudsters like Amber. Comment "Justice served." If you think people who refuse to pay for services they received should face serious consequences. Because what Judge Judy is about to reveal from that second folder will shock you to your core, and the moment when Amber realizes she's not walking out of this courtroom as a free woman is coming in less than 2 minutes. The trap is set. The evidence is compiled. And Amber Sinclair is about to learn that some judges actually investigate beyond what's presented in court, and that laughing at a $500 fine when you're guilty of federal crimes is the worst decision you can possibly make. Judge Judy's expression had been getting sharper with each excuse Amber made, but now she did something that sent a chill through the entire courtroom. She reached for that second folder, the thick one that Amber hadn't noticed, the one that held information nobody except Judge Judy knew about yet. "Miss Sinclair," she said, her voice taking on that deadly calm tone that regular viewers knew meant someone was about to be absolutely destroyed. "Before I finalize my judgment in this case, let's discuss something interesting I discovered." She opened the folder slowly, deliberately, and Amber's lawyer Marcus Henderson suddenly sat up straighter in his chair, his face showing the first flicker of concern. Amber looked confused, almost annoyed, like Judge Judy was wasting her valuable time. "When Mrs. Rodriguez's case came across my desk," Judge Judy continued, "something about it bothered me. The pattern seemed familiar. So I made some phone calls. I contacted the California Small Business Association. I spoke with the Consumer Protection Bureau. And what I found was absolutely fascinating." Judge Judy pulled out the first document. "Elena Martinez, personal trainer. You hired her, claimed she injured you during a workout, threatened to sue, and extracted a $12,000 settlement even though you were never injured." Amber's face went pale beneath her perfectly applied makeup. "That was a legitimate dispute," she stammered. Judge Judy ignored her and pulled out another document. "Patricia Chin, interior designer. $150,000 project. You refused to pay $85,000, threatened litigation, forced her to settle for $40,000. Her business nearly went bankrupt." Another document. "Jessica Williams, event planner. $15,000 fee. You refused payment, threatened her when she was 8 months pregnant, forced a $7,000 settlement." Judge Judy's voice grew harder with each name. "And 6 more just like these. 9 victims total over 4 years. $247,000 stolen through the exact same pattern. Hire small business owners, let them complete the work, praise everything publicly for your Instagram image, then refuse payment and threaten expensive litigation you know they can't afford." The courtroom had gone completely silent. Even the bailiff was staring at Amber with undisguised disgust. Maya's eyes were wide with shock and validation. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't alone. This had been happening to others. Judge Judy wasn't finished. "But here's where it gets really interesting, Miss Sinclair. I subpoenaed your text messages." She began reading from printed transcripts. "Text to a friend about Elena Martinez. Just scammed another $12,000 from my trainer LOL. Text to another friend. Why pay when threatening lawsuits is free? Text to Patricia Chin. My husband's lawyers will destroy your pathetic little business. Text to Jessica Williams. Nobody will believe a nobody over me. I have 380,000 followers. I can end you with one post." Each text message landed like a bomb. Amber's mouth opened and closed but no sound came out. Her perfect Instagram facade was crumbling in real time. Judge Judy pulled out bank records. "Your personal account, separate from your husband Richard, contains $340,000. None of it from employment. All of it from these fraudulent settlements. You've been running a criminal enterprise, Miss Sinclair. And your lawyer, Mr. Henderson, has been complicit, collecting $45,000 in fees for threatening your victims." Marcus Henderson's face turned crimson. The Bar Association complaint he was about to face flashed through his mind. Judge Judy leaned back in her chair. "This isn't civil fraud anymore. This is wire fraud. This is extortion. This is racketeering. You used electronic communications to threaten victims across state lines. That makes it federal." She paused, letting those words sink in. "I contacted the FBI yesterday. Showed them everything I found. They were very interested." Amber's voice came out as a whisper. "The FBI?" Judge Judy nodded slowly. "They're outside this courtroom right now, Miss Sinclair. Waiting." That's when Judge Judy delivered her civil judgment. Mrs. Rodriguez is awarded $14,000 for services rendered, $10,000 in punitive damages, $5,000 for emotional distress, and $8,000 for legal fees and lost business income. Total, $37,000. The gavel started to come down. And that's when Amber Sinclair made the biggest mistake of her entire life. She laughed. A genuine, disbelieving laugh that echoed through the silent courtroom. "Are you serious?" she said, still smiling. "500 would have been too much. This is ridiculous. My husband spends more than that on lunch." She turned to her lawyer, completely oblivious to the danger. "We're appealing this joke, right?" Judge Judy slowly lowered the gavel without striking it. She set it down on the bench with deliberate care, folded her hands, and stared at Amber Sinclair for 3 full seconds of suffocating silence. The entire courtroom seemed to hold its breath. Amber's smile started to fade as she finally began to understand that something was very wrong. "You think $37,000 is funny, Miss Sinclair?" Judge Judy's voice was dangerously quiet. Amber tried to recover. "I just mean, Your Honor, it's not a significant amount. Why are we even here for this?" Judge Judy's eyes turned to ice. "You're about to find out exactly why you're here." She picked up a different set of papers from that second folder. "Let me tell you about the additional findings. You've been stockpiling money in a secret account your husband Richard doesn't know about. You've been planning to divorce him and take that hidden money. I contacted Richard yesterday and showed him everything. He's filing for divorce today. Right now. His lawyers are serving you the papers the moment you leave this building." Amber's face went from pale to ghostly white. "What? No. He can't. I need that marriage." The desperation in her voice was real now, all the polish and performance stripped away. Judge Judy continued relentlessly. "Your marriage is the least of your problems. Those FBI agents outside? They have federal arrest warrants. 27 counts. Wire fraud, mail fraud, extortion, racketeering under the RICO Act. Each of your victims was contacted. Each one gave statements. The pattern is so clear, so systematic, so documented that the federal prosecutor called it one of the easiest cases he's ever seen." Amber started crying now, real tears that streaked her makeup, black mascara running down her cheeks, the Instagram-perfect face crumbling. "Please, Your Honor, I'll pay everyone back right now. I'll pay Maya. I'll pay everyone. Just please don't let them arrest me." Judge Judy's voice didn't soften. "You should have thought about that before you spent 4 years terrorizing hardworking women. Before you texted your friends about scamming people. Before you walked into my courtroom and laughed at justice." The bailiff moved toward the door. Judge Judy looked at Amber one final time. "You came in here thinking your beauty and your husband's money made you untouchable. You thought threatening small business owners was a legitimate career. You thought laughing at a civil judgment would somehow make this go away. You were wrong about everything." The courtroom doors opened and 2 FBI agents in dark suits walked in, badges visible on their belts. Amber screamed. Actually screamed. "No. This isn't happening. You can't do this." She tried to stand, tried to run toward the exit, but the bailiff blocked her path. The agents approached calmly, professionally. "Amber Sinclair, you're under arrest for wire fraud, mail fraud, extortion, and racketeering." The handcuffs clicked onto her wrists, the sound echoing through the dead-silent courtroom. The Miranda rights were read while cameras captured every second. Amber sobbing uncontrollably, her $8,000 Valentino dress wrinkled from struggling, her $7,500 Cartier bracelet glinting above the steel handcuffs, the trophy wife being led away in custody on national television. Maya Rodriguez collapsed into her chair, sobbing with relief. "Thank you," she whispered to Judge Judy. "You saved my life. You saved my children." Judge Judy's expression softened for the first time. "Mrs. Rodriguez, you did something incredibly brave. You fought back when others couldn't. Go take care of your family." The viral explosion happened within hours. The clip of Amber laughing hit 5 million views in 2 hours. The FBI arrest reached 15 million by evening. The full episode topped 40 million views in 24 hours, trending #1 worldwide. Hashtags exploded across every platform. Amber lost 200,000 Instagram followers in 48 hours. Her remaining posts were flooded with comments calling her a scammer, a criminal, a fraud. 6 months later, Amber Sinclair was convicted on 23 of 27 federal counts. She was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison with no parole eligibility for 5 years. ordered to pay full restitution of $380,000 to all her victims. Her secret bank account was seized. She still owed $40,000 after everything was taken. Richard's divorce was finalized. The prenup was enforced. She got nothing. Maya Rodriguez used the GoFundMe supporters created, which raised $180,000, to expand her catering business. She opened a second location, hired 5 employees, and all 3 of her children received college scholarships from people who'd seen her story. If this story proves that beauty and money don't make you above the law, smash that like button until your finger hurts. Comment karma is real if you believe Amber got exactly what she deserved for laughing at justice. Subscribe and hit that notification bell because we bring you more stories where entitled criminals learn that consequences catch up eventually. Share this with everyone who needs to see what happens when arrogance meets accountability. Remember, you can fake beauty with surgery and fake wealth with marriage, but you cannot fake your way out of federal prison. Amber Sinclair learned that the hard way, and 40 million people watched her world collapse in 18 minutes of perfect justice. Don't be an Amber. Treat people with respect. Pay for services you receive. Because eventually, you might walk into a courtroom where the judge actually investigates, and your perfectly curated life will be destroyed on camera for the whole world to see.